What's happening, everybody? It's T Rob here with the Biz Pulse. Um, Excited to have you. Make sure you are sharing this. Make sure you are liking and subscribing to my channel. But I'm excited. Got a guest tonight, Nate, that has all kinds of experience in marketing in a tech startups. He owned his own video marketing agency. He's all things marketing, but we're going to try to concentrate on how do you create authentic content to scale your audience. And I think that's a big topic these days because everything is social media and all that. So I'm going to shut up and bring Nate in here and let him introduce himself. So let me get him on here.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey,
Appreciate you,
man.
Rob.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. Super excited to have you and just excited to talk about, all things marketing, really, man. But
Yeah,
first off,
absolutely.
yeah, tell everybody a little bit about you.
Sure, man. So let's see. I was born in the South. I'm oldest of four boys. That's a little bit about my family. When it comes to my experience, I've been a creative guy ever since I was really young. Jumped right into the game very early, starting my own first business when I was 23. First job I ever had was in my father's business. He was a janitor, so I've been working since I was like yay high, 8 years old. But yeah, so started off that business and really got things running off the ground because I acquired a very large client. And in 2017, 2018, where I was, there wasn't a ton of video marketing. It just wasn't something that people were worried about. Even though YouTube is fully developed, having video campaigns is just on the forefront of marketing. But just continue to scale that business and then eventually pivoted out as COVID started to hit and found my way into the startup realm. I was not only working with a nonprofit at the time called ProInspire. This is a DE&I nonprofit agency that goes out to different organizations, specifically colleges, universities, large scale Fortune 500 companies, and kind of does that consulting bit behind the closed doors. Worked into GiveButter as their marketing team lead. I came on to GiveButter prior to them being fully launched, a fully fledged product that was basically trying to launch a nonprofit app that could change the world. That's what we were trying to do, and provide a nonprofit fundraising app that was free. This way, people could come in. There's no barrier to entry, and they could just immediately start building for their causes that they're going for. And so after I worked through GiveButter, we able to get them off the ground, build them from a bootstraps company, no funding, to their first $7 million round, also getting them up to #1 rated on different platforms like Trustpilot and G2. Then I moved and I'm now currently a senior marketing manager at an agency down in Texas. We service all different types of clients. Particularly, two of my primary ones that I have are in insurance and in manufacturing. Both of these companies have about $100 to $300 million in assets at the end of the year. And it's just been a really crazy ride, just seeing all the different waves of working in grassroots communities, working in corporate marketing, working in large scale projects, and just the different impact that you can have, not only with the content you create digitally, but as we were kind of talking before the show, getting to shake those hands and go out for coffee and just do that in a way that's meaningful, not in a way that is an obligation or anything that you feel like you have to do that is not an innate desire. And that's at least what I've found not only scales companies, brings in funding, but also just puts a smile on everybody's face. Like, it makes it a lot less intimidating,
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I think, and we talked about it before we came on, it's like we all get stuck in the desk or in the office and we're in the digital world with blinders on and we forget to go out and shake people's hands and have real relationships. Because still, for me and from a marketing standpoint, there's no better way to market. It's still the best way to market is to go shake people's hands and to build relationships. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's something I think people miss. And sometimes digital folks like that do marketing for digital products, they'll never mention anything like that. So
Yeah.
good job, man.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I was one of those people, probably when I first got started, like it was all digital, all everything. I mean, again, I'm still very much a young man. So when I came into marketing 21 to 23, even before my company, I'm having conversations with people who are nearly twice my age and who run traditional marketing. They
Right.
understand out of home, they understand throwing events and actually doing fundraising for corporate and nonprofit. So early in my career, I was the same way because it was like, oh, okay, well, if I understand digital, they can't touch me. Like,
Yeah.
and then you progress in your career, and Google doesn't, take off as fast as it needs to. We're not flying cars yet. Terminator isn't here, even though ChatGPT is doing amazing things, right? So I
Yeah.
have to kind of
Yep.
go back and understand that traditional side. So it's been interesting.
Yeah. Very cool, man. So tell me, from a standpoint of authentic, and how do you describe to me what's authentic? I'm talking from a digital side of things, of like,
Hmm.
because I think sometimes people understand maybe the authentic of me in front of you face to face, but they don't
Right.
understand how to take that and put it into, on social media or whatever, to grow their business.
Hmm. I think most people struggle with the issue, myself included, when I got started on not using social media or email marketing or advertising as a boombox, like as a projection of your voice.
Yeah.
And even more, I think it kind of brings us back to where marketing really comes from. In we're driving down, we see the billboard, we see the ad in the newspaper, we have it on TV, and we get used to this advertising language. That even the same way we talk about HR talk, or let's do a deep dive, right?
Yeah.
Those marketing tech startup words, right? So I think we get used to these words, and so we jump onto social media, and especially if we're representing a business, we initially come with this. Okay, what's our ad language? Let's get copy in here. How do we get the right tone? How do we get the right voice? What's our mission statement? How do we embody our values? Uh, and we forget that we're people, right?
Right.
Like we're
Right.
no digital. Digital is in a way that it's not what traditional marketing was. If we're looking at the out of home, the billboards, walking down the street and seeing an ad, that you see it, you walk by it, you filter it, and you keep moving about your day.
Yeah.
Whereas on social media, this individual can go to your Twitter page, go to your LinkedIn, go to your Instagram, engage with that initial piece of content that kind of sparked that interest, and then even look through other things. And then they can DM you, reach out. Like that's just not something that we could do before. And so I think when it comes to trying to be authentic in content, we just have to kind of take a step back and rethink the way we look at companies into what a lot of people are saying these days, right? That businesses are living, breathing entities. They're
Right.
no longer this item, this thing that's just there that people work inside of. It's now something that actually gets to interact directly with us as consumers. So that's where I think that authentic piece really lies. It's just developing a brand personality, right? Just developing those things that really make your business the business. Just like myself, Nathaniel, have my own little quirks and little things. You do as well. So just
Yeah.
honing in on that bit, I think, and projecting that to your audience is really important.
Yeah. So I guess, from a standpoint of that, like if I'm starting a new business,
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's important, like you said, to really know your identity, right? So
Mhm.
how do you, like, for me, how would I take my identity and put
Mhm.
that into a digital form? I mean, is it more of a strategy of like, okay, what's important to me, and take that and put it into, what's your recommendation on that?
There's a lot. There's a lot you can do there. I mean, it's definitely a big question. It's definitely depending on the company, right? Some people, like solopreneurs, we're going to put ourselves into our business and then push
Hmm.
that forward. I think for other examples, when it comes to larger companies, companies that scale well beyond 50, 100, 500 employees, it's a little bit more complex because you may not even have the original founder still working in the business. This could be an acquisition company, and sometimes that brand or that personality gets lost. I
Right.
think it's going to go back to what I like to focus on, which is the founding story. Even if you don't have access to that founder, trying to dig up the genesis, the beginning of kind of the purpose of this business, and doing a lot of work into your branding. I mean, I've worked with different companies that have spent $20,000 to $50,000 on just those top three mission values, mission value statements, that it almost blows my mind because you're not able to engage with the audience during that time, and you're kind of building up something that you're not sure if it's going to work. But a lot of that comes into play for interviewing your founders, interviewing the current board members, and pooling all of these reasons together. And I think
Mhm.
nonprofits do it the best because initially nonprofits have to focus on a problem. Like they have to focus something in the community. And every single business typically has that as well. They're really trying to do something.
Yeah.
To quote a very famous writer, Simon Sinek, it's really about finding your why. Because if you can't articulate in a very short point why you're doing something, then you probably have lost your customer as well, because your customer doesn't know why they're going to be engaging with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally 100% agree. I mean, I think people forget about the elevator pitch,
Hmm.
like I, 9 out of 10 people, if I line them up and ask what they did, they probably
Yeah.
have a hard time explaining that. So, and my line of work, and probably you as well, you spend a lot
Hmm.
of time going, what's your market fit? What problem are you fixing?
Mm.
Right. And that's how you determine how you market. Like, who are you marketing to? Like,
Yeah,
a lot of
the
people don't
best
even
answer.
a lot of people don't even know that, right? They're just like,
Yes.
let's just throw some ads out and
Yeah.
like,
Do
yeah. So
everything, do everything all over the place. I mean, we're all very familiar with the phrase, like if you're marketing to everyone, or if your customer is everyone, your customer is no one. It's
right.
like, and when
Absolutely.
you do ad roll and you actually run advertisements, unless you have a very unique campaign where you're trying to see what lands, and it's also very neutral in the creative, most of the time when you put any amount of heart into your content and you blast that out to people to see what's going to react in advertising form,
Yeah.
you're typically going to get some trolls. It doesn't matter what web platform you're on. I've gotten it on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You'll find the people who really want to more throw dirt at what you're doing, instead of maybe spending less money and getting less results, just to reach that true target audience, like the people who really care and want to learn more or do or click or purchase, whatever the call to action is.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, or you say that, because I'm working with a client right now that
Mhm.
that was a lot of what our initial talk was. He was so sick and tired of people like dig him or throwing dirt on him, and I told him, man, you're gonna get that, but let's focus on the people that are not, because it's
Mhm.
like, let's reach that different clientele that you're going for. So yeah, that's a good point for sure.
Yeah.
So in a authentic content, um, so give me an example of like an authentic, like what would be authentic to you, or to a client you're working with.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I brought up Give Butter earlier, the startup that I worked at. And so I think a good example of what we focused on there was our change makers. Those are the people that we had nicknamed for the people that are doing the fundraising and on the ground. And so any authentic piece of content for us would have been like our acknowledging our change makers. These are our weekly campaigns that we love. That's what we called it, campaigns we love. Every single week, we're going to highlight certain campaigns that have either reached a goal. If you're working at a SaaS project like Give Butter, you
Hmm.
can have certain metrics on this account is this active. This account is not only raising the money, but they're engaging people. You can see what features they're using. So as we're releasing new features, and so you can kind of play that business game. But for us at Give Butter, when it came to the marketing content, we're going to be digging into what actually matters to our change makers, them and their causes. So
Gotcha.
sometimes at other companies, it's not as obvious, right? At Pro Inspire, or like for the manufacturing company that I'm working with, they don't really have an as honest of an authentic reason why they're doing things. And part of what I'm kind of pulling them through is, what's the why? What's
Yeah.
the founding story? Like when I initially found this client and I asked them, who's your founder? They just left question marks all over that part of the kickoff meeting. It was terrible. So it's like, even in that, sometimes we find ourselves like we just don't know what that authentic piece of ourselves are, or what that authentic piece of the company is. And then our job as marketers, as branders, is to come in and get to that deep nugget, that like golden piece, and then start to dig into that there. So that's why I brought up Give Butter, because just a very unique situation, that why was so upfront for us, and we were just able to rally in behind it. And it's something that's, pretty powerful too, because you can start to change the company based on that why. When we started to focus in on our change makers, we no longer had a sales department. And that wasn't because we were just
Gotcha.
free. It was because we're switching from trying to put out this app to how do we actually create an impact in the world. And now we can change that into customer success, into where our job is no longer to make the sales, to worry about the sales cycle, but is to worry about adoption. And then our job in marketing changes as well. We're kind of now sales in a way, because now we're selling trust. Like, we have to put forward a campaign that gets our audience to trust us, to use us, not only in this specific situation because money is involved, but
Mhm.
also because these organizations have a problem, an issue. They have some kind of impact that they want to leave on the world that really means a lot to them. And so for us to build that trust with them, then instinctively builds trust with the communities that they're hoping to impact.
Gotcha. So, I mean, from what you're telling me, and is discovering the why is the number one. It's the first step, right? So,
Yes.
like, what's next? So you got the why. So now what
Mhm.
does someone do? That's because there's a lot of people that they have no clue. I mean, they
Mhm.
had this idea, they start this business, and then they're like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah. So I think after you find the why, you have to go into a bit of your own tone decisions, your own brand personality decisions. You're running through mission, vision, values. You're going to be going through statements that mean this, your tone, your voice. Make sure you have your logo, all like the basic branding things.
Yeah.
And then I think there's a way of working with a copywriter or working within yourself if you're a solopreneur, to bridge the gap between what you want it to be and kind of how the audience speaks. Because not only in that piece of you now have your why, you have to find where that why resonates. And that could go back to a bit of what we were talking about with digital and physical. It
Hmm.
might be chamber of commerce events. It might be local networking. It could be platforms like this and meeting someone organically on Twitter and then getting to kind of riff back
Right.
and forth.
Yeah.
There's so many different options for us these days that we actually have access to. But the point is, once you have that why, you actually have to step into communicating that why and see where it resonates. It's not going to happen the first day. It's not going to potentially happen the first month, because you're going to have to do a bit of testing on, is this the platform that my audience lives and engages with each other, and even more, engages with this issue, right?
Yeah.
Like, it might be something specific that they don't have that personality of themselves on LinkedIn, but on Facebook, they're all over those forums and group pages.
Yeah.
And so once you have that why, make sure you go ahead and step into communicating that why, and kind of testing out different language and copy versions of advertisement, of organic content, just kind of feeling out the audience and making sure you're actually hitting them. Because
Okay.
it might not be as deep as you think when it comes to that why.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I think sometimes people make it too more difficult than it should be, right?
Hmm.
So, if you're just tuning in, I'm with Nate. He's a marketing guru, and he's just sharing all his insight of doing marketing for years. So we talked about the why, and then we talked about other steps. Um, is there like a point, Nate? I mean, probably every business is different.
Hmm.
That from your standpoint as a marketing guy, like, we nailed it, we found it, this is what works. Or is it just
Mm.
always like a thing of like, well, let's try this, let's try this, let's try
Mhm.
this? Do you ever get to the point of like, okay, this is working, and this let's just put more money at this?
Yeah. I think, first I wanna give you a compliment. Thanks for calling me a guru. I don't call myself that, and I don't I don't usually I shy away from most gurus, you know?
Hmm.
Let me kind of take a weird approach to this. I do think, just speaking to the audience in case they're solopreneurs or they actually have salary positions, as a solopreneur, you have to be honest with yourself, and you need to balance the truth of metrics and what you want your business to be. When it comes to salary, it's typically you're going to be going after a metric. You're going to be going after some kind of KPI, some goal, whether
Right.
it's a conversion. Typically, that is just going to vary on the conversion. But those are the two lanes. And for me, focusing in on those solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, people who are doing their own thing and not, or maybe trying to break out of that 9 to 5,
Hmm.
um, you've got to look at both and you've got to decide what really means the most to you. At times when you're just getting started, I would focus in on that engagement rate and comments, because I think engaging in conversations is the best way to kind of get the lift off the ground. Just meeting people, shaking the hands, just like we've been talking about this
Yeah.
entire time. And comments, to me, across most platforms, are the best way to not only increase engagement, but to get the platform to continuously share your content. That like and share always does well. But if a person is commenting and then people are starting to create their own interwoven communities and conversations amidst your post,
Yeah.
that's what I think is super powerful. Of course, the metrics, of course, getting more clients, more conversions is a great thing. But I think what's even more powerful than just building an audience and being able to scale that audience to sell is your audience actually communicates with itself. Like if anyone has an issue inside of like Simon Sinek's audience, they're all going to be self-motivating each other. Simon doesn't need to come in to the Twitter
Yeah.
chat
Yeah.
and say, "Hey, you got it." It's because someone else is already embodying that community so well. And especially for most solopreneurs that are doing things in marketing, doing things in business and crypto, especially crypto has such a deep founded community. Like if
Oh
you're
yeah.
in crypto and not on Discord, you're not in crypto, right? Like
Right. Right.
it's
Yeah.
like we're all about community is king. And so that's the heart of what I look to as a marketer. It's always a red flag to me if someone has a ton of followers and no true engagement. I would
Yeah.
rather see 100 followers and a ton of comments and no likes at all than go to a company page or a solopreneur's page and see hundreds of thousands of followers and maybe tens of thousands of likes, but little to no comments, right? Like that
Yeah.
just means their people are not talking to one another. And that's always an issue, right? We don't like siloed companies here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I did a little short other day
Mhm.
on dominating one social media platform, because
Yeah, I
from
love
my
that.
experience, people like, they sign up for all these different social media platforms
Mhm.
and they don't do well on any of them, because
Mhm.
the probably is because they don't know their why yet,
Mhm.
so, but is that what you suggest too, is like get really good at like one and then use what you learned from that and move on to another one, or what's your suggestion?
I think that's the play these days. If you would have caught me when I started Blue Roll, if you'd have caught me 5 years ago, it would have been kind of be everywhere. Mainly because 5, 7 years ago, I mean, 5 years ago, even LinkedIn was not what it was today
Right.
in influencers. But there was still a valid strategy if you were getting off the ground, running things all by yourself, or a generalist at a company. Uh, you could rinse and repeat all of your content and get some pretty decent traction early on.
Hmm.
So the platforms weren't fully into maturity. I mean, maturity. Uh, that it just worked. And maybe not on Twitter, because I think Twitter's always been the community ground. It's always been different. You've always had to have a little bit of spunk, a little bit of sass for
Yeah.
Twitter, like always. But when it came to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you could ripple that, use the same square image and ripple it across everywhere.
Right.
I think now, because the platforms really have reached maturity to where Facebook is well been out for over a decade, the ad platform is fully developed. You can now reach out to Facebook and they will send you emails, say, "Hey, we noticed you're running ads. We can help you. You should work with
Right.
us."
Right.
That you really do have to have narrow strategies for each one of these platforms. And so I am more skewing towards a single platform, if not one. If you're working with a specific business, you might find, hey, they want to do LinkedIn, Facebook because that's where their audience is, but you just have to have the tact to be able to communicate with someone. You don't need to be on Instagram. You don't need to be on Twitter.
Yeah.
Or if you're on Twitter, do it this way. So I've worked with clients who want to be everywhere because they're still following that advice of, oh, our competition's there, our competition's doing this, right? Um, and then all of a sudden they have a company Twitter and they're surprised that it's not getting any engagement.
Yeah.
And Twitter, especially as a platform, is one that I advise people to just do personally, right? I've worked
Right.
with plenty of companies that their CEOs or their chief marketing officers actually have the handle of the company. One specifically, Marketing Profs. They were a company that I almost worked with, and they have apparently the largest B2B marketing list in the United States. And if you go to Marketing Profs at Twitter, it's not the company. It's like their chief marketing officer, who's the most successful book writer.
Huh. So why do you suggest that?
I suggest that for like the personal Twitter or only uh, one platform.
Okay. Okay.
Which one? Sorry, I just
The
clarifying
the
question.
the Twitter. Why do you suggest like just one person, or not going with an agency or something that's handling that?
Mhm.
Why are you suggesting that?
Typically, it's because the clients that are wanting to be on Twitter and want to start up that business page aren't willing to interact with Twitter the way that Twitter desires, which is that community, that is that commenting, that is giving more than you take. You can take all day on Facebook and LinkedIn and do just fine.
Yeah.
I think on Twitter is very unique that you will find more attention by going out and commenting with people and engaging in what they're saying and boosting them up. Whereas on LinkedIn right now, I mean, you just post and you don't
Right.
even need to comment on anybody else's
Right.
content. And so
Right.
not only is it that most founders, most CEOs, most companies are not willing to engage with Twitter in the way that it desires, but also just the success I've seen with differentiating between the company account and the personal account, and individuals who are personal just get interacted with. Like personalities thrive a lot more on Twitter than they do other places. And so that's the main reason that I make that push.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I was just curious,
Mhm.
coming, a guy that's on that side,
Mhm.
why you're saying that. So, I guess my next question, and this is probably a broad one that probably depends on the company, but what platform right now are you seeing that's just working best for you as a marketer?
I'm on Twitter right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, when it comes to me personally, I'm loving and finding success on Twitter because, I mean, back in the day, I was on Twitter and was all up through comments, and then I kind of walked away from it for a while, for quite a
Hmm.
few years, and now just recently kind of started things back up there, and I started to engage with people, and that's how I met your wonderful self.
Hell yeah, man.
Uh,
I don't
but
know
when
about
it
that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can be the wonderful self and I'll be the guru and we'll
There
both
we
be
go. There we
uncomfortable.
go. I like this.
So, but for clients, you hit it right on the head. It is client dependent. It is business dependent. But the big two right now are going to be LinkedIn and then TikTok if you can get on there. And honestly, because of everything that Elon's doing, I'm fascinated with everything that he's
Yeah.
doing right now. That I think we're kind of hitting ground zero on Twitter again. I think there's going to be a new Twitter, a new way that we're maybe not interacting with everyone. Like it might be the same platform, but even Elon's most recent tweet to come out and kind of step down as Twitter and him engaging with other people that would open this up to be a DAO. I mean, I
Yeah.
love these ideas. I've interacted with DAOs before, and I think I'm very interested to see where it's going to go. So now I'm starting to kind of pull people more in that direction because there's just no telling. And with something being ground zero, it's always exciting to be there. Whether Twitter shuts down, I don't believe that's going to happen. But yeah, no, telepathy here, like future telling here. But
Yeah.
I'm really excited about what Elon's doing and reshifting the platform and cracking it open, getting in there. It's been really fun to just witness.
Oh, I know, man. It's funny because the feeds alone are just so different now. I mean, once Elon got in there and just opened it all up, it's like, whoa, where was all these people? Like, so
Yeah.
it's pretty wild. But
Yeah, even people saying like, are the bots gone? Crypto, Elon, and then just waiting to see if they'll just blow up your thread. It's
yeah,
been really cool, and that's kind of what's gotten me back onto the platform. Is that when I was on Twitter before and just a scroller, I was all through crypto and was more just kind of like not following influencers, but just following the story of what's happening when platforms are shutting down, what's going on with this DAO, what's going on over here with this protocol. And once all the bots were kind of gone and things kind of like simmered down and the drama started up, I was like, I can thrive here. I can do this.
So, explain to me, like, you know, for like give me an example, because we talk about LinkedIn, and and you know, LinkedIn is pretty powerful, and I don't utilize it well enough that. But is there a certain, like, for LinkedIn, is there a certain company that should concentrate on LinkedIn compared to Facebook, or what's your feeling on that?
I mean, there's definitely pushes for if you're a professional company that needs professional connections.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the most obvious answer. The way I've differentiated the platforms are going to be that Facebook stands for family,
Right.
and LinkedIn is professional. And so if you have a company that's more of a mom and pop shop, souvenirs, maybe you make soaps, maybe your local coffee shop, like you're not a Starbucks, those would be places anywhere where you really want to utilize a group. So that's really powerful for Facebook, because those internal groups, those private groups that you can invite people to,
Yeah.
you can hold courses, you can give out your content, you can say that we're having a party at this date and only the people in here are invited, make it a little bit exclusive. That's what I think is powerful for Facebook. So any business that wants to utilize an internal group, that's where you should really go. LinkedIn is going to be, you need that professional connection. Like if anyone here has ever been to a chamber of commerce meeting or ever interacted with a chamber, you know what it's like to sit in those meetings. You know what it's like to do a round robin and everybody says what they do. That's kind of what LinkedIn's really good for. Of course, you can use it personally, but even every LinkedIn influencer that I've found who has hundreds of thousands of followers on LinkedIn, who puts out content every day, they're always doing it in a very professional sense that is centered around community, but that community happens in the comments, and it just boosts up the person and what they're saying, less than a private community talking amongst itself in a group with or without the company or founder.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So from your stand, you know, your profession is, what can you give listeners, like a secret to, like, helping them scale a business? Like, is there some little something that you say, hey, and maybe you already have with the why, but is there some little secret that you could share with the
audience? Let me see. Single golden nugget. Oh, it's just one that's really, really good. Let me check my notes up here. Oh, goodness. Put me on the spot. All right. So
we can come back to that too.
I like it. Let's dig in and get uncomfortable. I think one single golden nugget that's really, really good for me, because I mean, we can always talk about trying to scale a company to higher amounts of revenue or to even receive funding. But I really do think that golden nugget is your team, right? If you don't have the right team, you're not even going to be able to scale. You're not going to be able to have the right people in the room to generate those ideas, to actually come up with change makers. And that's what everything is about. And amongst that team, letting go of the ego of where the answer could come from. I'm working with companies and different startups that more prioritize top-down thinking versus true groupthink, because that is actually what makes us a culture. That's what makes us a being, right? So in communication, we love to say that a culture is just idioms and rules created by that internal group that they all agree on and that they all know.
Right.
And we like to break open culture in more than just black, white, you know, races, right? But if you're a skater, then you know audios, right? You know the Tony Hawk games. If you're into anime, you know Naruto, you know Bleach. If you're into crypto, you know this, right? Yeah. Like, you're not just going to talk about Bitcoin. You're going to talk about
Hex.
Exactly. You're going to talk about the fall of, gosh, even the one that's, I don't even need to remember that money trip that ticked me off, because that's going to give me out a whole other bottle of wax. But not so having that team and just being able to subscribe everybody to that group think, because then you actually have what we talk about with DAOs, it's just open source. Everything is open, everything is available to be touched, everyone is able to be scrutinized, but not in a negative way. It's going to come from that positive place to where we can pick apart these ideas. That's been the most powerful thing throughout my career, because there's not like some simple money hack or some simple way to know, okay, we should now take in funding, we should move from bootstraps to this. Like,
Mhm.
you'll know when you're ready to scale, and your financial advisors and your CPAs will also take care of you, because that's not my profession. But when it comes to especially marketing, business development, branding, some of the best ideas that I've seen come out of meetings are when everyone in the meeting is okay with being right and being corrected. And
Yeah.
if you're able to kind of just walk that gray line, you can have some really powerful ideas. And the worst meetings I've ever come out of are, I feel like we all kind of feel that no one likes to be an entrepreneur or have a salary position, be giving ideas. Oh, new ideas. Oh, I want to innovate. Oh, new
Mhm.
thing. And it's just, no, we don't do
Right.
that. That's not
Right.
our way. And that's a dream killer right there.
Yeah, that hurts.
Mm.
And I think the other part, the problem that I see in the business world is people tend to hire people that are exactly like them.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
so you get into a meeting and you have everybody that's pretty much copies of each other, and
Yeah.
nothing creative comes. So I always tell people to hire, specialized people, like
Mm.
get people that are different than you, that know something different than you, and
Yeah. Big
so
time.
yeah, I mean that really helps when you're having, creative type meetings where it's like, okay, let's bring things to the table. Uh,
Yes, and just to speak to that, like we, especially in the DE&I industry, people talk about diversity as it just kind of being its skin color,
yeah.
really, like skin color, and then maybe language, and then disability, like if anyone's able-bodied.
Hmm.
And I think we can go one layer deeper than all that stuff that we can see on the surface. Not that that's stuff's not important,
Right.
but to your point exactly, like if we don't have diversity of thought in the room, we're all just an echo. We're all just yes men, and
Yeah.
that's that's
Yeah.
not how you do anything. And you certainly don't scale, or you scale, but you might scale in one man's direction, and only that guy, he doesn't even know where you're going to end up. So it's
Right.
dangerous.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So if someone wanted to do what you do,
Mhm.
like what would you, I mean, what kind of personality do they have, and what's the road to becoming a guy like you?
Well, you need to like Moe's. I love Moe's. I love their queso. Let's see. I don't take things too seriously. I have before in my life, but fast memory. That's really good. It's nice to have that in marketing and in life. But to get to like the hard stuff, you need to understand copy. You need to understand copy, even if you can't, even if you're not the best writer. We can go down a whole rabbit hole of chat GPT and everything that they're doing right now, and open AI, and you have no excuse to not understand copy these days. You can go to YouTube. I mean, you need to love learning. I think that's
Yeah.
probably the first point there
Yeah.
is, when I was younger, I enjoyed reading, and as I got older, went to college, and then found out that there was this whole YouTube thing that you could just learn for free on. That was
Right.
great.
Right.
You just gotta be interested in kind of learning. I think you also need to be able to pivot. Me going from starting on my own video agency, and having the position of creative director, because I didn't want to call myself founder. I didn't want to call myself CEO. I wanted to give myself a real job position, something that was tangible. But then pivoting to only working in communications, to then leading the marketing department at Give Butter, and to then being fully in marketing as a senior position. Each one of those jumps has happened because I was okay doing something a little different. And most people nowadays, if you're well within marketing or in business, you understand that it's better to be a generalist these days. Like, you can be a
Mhm.
specialist for certain times, and it's good to have a few areas that you are specialists in, right? So for me, it's that video creation and audio engineering. Like, I still have that heart. I could still go into Adobe Premiere and rip it apart from audio to video. and marketing strategy, and then also automation. So those are my like three
Right.
specialization buckets. But then everything else is going to have a nice general understanding of. So when I reach a position like I'm in now, or with goals of being in a C-suite, or starting up my own firm again and reimagining my life and having my own solopreneurness, you have to be okay just letting go of that stuff and just holding it in the back. Because throughout my entire career, I mean, like I said, when I was 8 years old, I was working as a janitor with my father.
Hmm.
My first job in high school was at McDonald's. Then I was at a grocery store. I've been a dishwasher. All of this while building a company, while trying to break into the industry. It's not easy, and you're going to have those pitfalls, which is why you got to be okay pivoting. If you're not okay letting go of that ego of, oh, well, I've been in the newspaper, I have,
Right.
young entrepreneur awards, why do I need to go be a dishwasher? Because you need to get this fucking work in.
Yeah.
And it's you're in that lane. Yeah, right. It's like you're in
Yep.
that time right now where like you need to humble yourself. You need to go do something that maybe you don't think you need to do. And then I worked as a dishwasher for 2 weeks, and then I got the job offer. Let's see, where that was, to go to Give Butter. So it's like,
Nice, man.
like literally,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
being able to walk away. And again, back to those copy skills, because redoing your resume, using the right words, using money metrics, using things that are tangible, key objectives. Let's see, outside of that copy and being willing to pivot, you gotta love what you're doing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. You can get my comms degree. Sure, you can go and get a degree in marketing. You can apply for well over 1,000 jobs, just waiting for one to get in. You can work with recruiters. You can build out a LinkedIn page that looks incredible. I wouldn't do Indeed if you want to break into startups. They're not really on there. So there's all these like small little things you can do, but I feel like everybody can give those pieces of advice. For me, it really has been just loving that learning, understanding copy throughout all pieces of marketing content, creative and advertisement, and being able to pivot and just kind of let go of where you are to get where you need to be.
Man, that's great advice. You covered all these questions I had in front of me here. So
Bam.
and man, I mean and folks, I did not share those questions with
He
him.
did
I'm
not.
telling you.
He did not. I mean, it's been quite the ride doing what I do, and I'm incredibly fortunate to be 27, going on 28 here soon, and have the career that I have. That even the decisions I have now, if I get recruited or an offer, there's a healthy skepticism of, is this the right move for me? Because now I'm heading into a point in my career where what I don't need to think in months or even in years. I'm like, what in 10 years, where do you want to be? And
Right.
what's the move that's going to get you there? For those starting out who are 18, 15, maybe even 21, like sometimes you just got to get through tomorrow. And I totally understand that. You gotta do what you gotta do to get through the day.
Yeah, yeah, there's a plan for you. You just gotta stay on it. So
Yeah.
there's there's definitely seasons for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
We've all been there for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so you spoke earlier, and I don't want to keep dragging it on,
Yeah,
but
it's cool.
so I mean, are you thinking about going back to solo? Are you going to do your own thing, or I mean, what's a plan for you in the next year, next 5 years? What's your goals?
So for me, still very much a salary employee. I have that senior marketing job. I do have an offer from another startup to join them that I'm kind of mulling over the holidays.
Hmm.
So I'm still interested in kind of working in some salary positions, because I was, like I said, 23, 22 when it really started up, but on paperwork, I was 23 when I started Blue Roll, did that for 4 years. That now I've only actually been working full time in professional work for a year and a half, 2 years.
Okay.
And so it's been a very short stint kind of doing both. And so I do kind of want to shake a few more hands in the professional world. I think that would do me well in the long run. But what I'm doing right now, and the reason earlier I brought up, like, I'm just getting back into Twitter, Elon's done this, so I'm here for the drama. Uh, I'm loving just getting to do things like this, give advice, share my experience, share how a young person can kind of break into startups, break into the tech industry.
Yeah.
And maybe in the next year, I am thinking through writing up some kind of a course, like being able to kind of push all this together and be able to put it out to people that desire it. But my first intuition was to get involved and to kind of speak out my why, as I said earlier, and figure out what people want, because I'm not in the stage of I need to talk about this. Like, I have enough experience that I could package something together relatively nicely in the next year and a half. Got the platforms all set up. I've got the whole business plan on my whiteboard, but right now it's getting involved in those conversations like this, seeing what people are really talking about. And once I have something take a good solid root and start to get those good questions maybe naturally and organically, that's when I'll know, okay, it's time for me to package this together, put it online, and see where it goes. And
Cool.
outside of that, I am still helping and consulting with other businesses here locally in Wilmington and across the US. So that's always been a passion of mine. But when it comes to a full startup by Nathaniel, I'm going to take another moment. This way I can do it the right way.
Yeah, no, I understand. You learn from that stuff, and
Absolutely.
yeah, you're just taking it all in right now and just putting it in your little wallet. Like, oh, here's my knowledge. Now, next
Yeah.
time I launch, it's gonna be good. So
Yeah, very much so.
yeah, one thing I didn't ask you, we didn't really get
Mhm.
into was Google and what your feeling is with Google. AdWords or AdSense, whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, is how important is that for a business?
Incredibly. I still think it's very, yeah, it's still incredibly important. At GiveButter, we got into bid wars, which we're a little bit more familiar with like gas wars with Ethereum when it came to
Yeah,
NFTs, right? But you can absolutely go into some real bid wars where you end up going from spending a casual 5, 10, $25 a day. At GiveButter specifically, we had a competitor that popped out of the blue called Better World, that in their metadata would say the number one Give Butter alternative. It was a very strategic targeted campaign where they overbid us on our Give Butter word and were using good metadata descriptions to be able to pop up, and they overranked us when you just searched Give Butter. That's when myself, the VP of marketing, and our founder got together and we raised that to 50 and then to 75 and then to 100. And then I got a message one day that said, I don't care what it takes. We're going to be number one for the result
oh
of Give Butter. And within a month or so, we were. So I definitely think it's going to depend on what you're trying to do, but Google ads are still very much important because everyone still utilizes search.
yeah,
I think with the incoming, discoveries and creation of AI technology, things might change. But even earlier, I was having this conversation that as long as search is important and as long as people are using websites, you need to be focused on some form of a Google ad strategy. You can utilize tools like SEMrush to find those gaps, because
yeah,
maybe it would be a terrible idea for me to start up a marketing firm and then to target the keyword marketing. It's going to be very extremely broad, or even marketing in North Carolina is going to be incredibly broad. But what we can do is try to find those niche problems that people are solving. So marketing marketing on Twitter, to like B2B marketing on Twitter for North Carolina companies. Even that amount of just narrowing down our keyword search and actually using a phrase match and not an exact match is going to open up Google to kind of filtering in some better results, to where people are going to be finding you when they need you, not just when they're randomly searching marketing on Google. Because I don't believe anybody does that anymore. I don't think so. I don't think
yeah.
anybody's going to Google saying marketing.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
Yeah.
so either. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good answer. I mean, I'm working with a company right now that I'm not a Google guy. I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, I understand enough to get in trouble, but
Mhm.
I've got to find somebody to analyze what they're doing to see,
Okay.
what the heck they're doing. So I was picking your brain to see if you might be interested, but we can talk off camera too. And
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
yeah, so it's a different creature for sure on that side of things. I mean, social media, I somewhat understand,
Mhm.
but that side, it's like you got to get the keywords right and all that other stuff. So,
Yeah.
you're just throwing
Yeah.
money. You're just like, here, throw some money in the pit. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the dark hole. Like as long as you can make sure that they're appearing for or like their page ranking where they're showing up. But it is kind of a long journey. It's not something that like you see results in just a day. It's going to be something that takes a moment, and running through those keywords is very key. But we could definitely talk offline about that, and you can let me know what's going on.
Cool, man. Cool. So what else do you want to share and like tell people how the heck they can who are you? How do they find you?
Cool. Well, let me start with that. My name's Nathaniel Tyree. You can find me on Twitter. You can probably find me other places too, but really I am a ghost online. When it came to like when I got into the industry of marketing, I backed off all of my social media and deleted everything. Except for my Facebook, so I could talk to my nan and granddad. Got to
There you
talk to my
go. There
grandparents.
you go.
Got to be sweet to somebody. So yeah, you can find me everywhere at Nathaniel Tyree, just like it's spelled here, Nathan Aeltyre. Let's see. I did have something to share about bridging fans and audience, but I do think we talked about that a good bit with just understanding like connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if I had to leave everybody with something, it's follow your gut and don't be afraid of the path in front of you. When I was thinking earlier today, just kind of going through my mind, I like to like pre-think about discussions we had. I thought about Blue Roll and like the entire reason I started it up. And it wasn't only because I wanted to create an impact. I wanted to do something creative. I was just kind of thrown out of life and was going through a really hard time. And I just needed something to get me off my ass, to get me off the couch, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then as I started it up, went out to a local barbershop, shot my first video while I was in the chair getting my hair cut. And at the time on the internet, these barbershop videos were just going really viral and just going all around places. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what I can do. And I go and I create it. And then it just so happens that at the time I created that video, gave it to the barbershop, they put it out, woot. That our hospital here, the number one employer here in Wilmington, which is New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Now it's Novant Health. They went through an acquisition. They were running a Get Healthy campaign, to put it short, to where they were going around and partnering with a lot of different local barbershops and just doing like free flu shots, free healthcare, or not free healthcare, but like free blood pressure checks, just different basic things you can do. And so when I say to, go with your gut feeling and just have balls, even if you're a lady, just go the fuck at it when you see what's in front of you. Is the only reason I started up Blue Roll as an LLC, as like a legitimate business and not a DBA, wasn't because I got advice from someone, wasn't because I was on YouTube getting all these great things. It was because that's what the hospital required to work with them. And in twofold. So one, they would not do business with a DBA. You had to be an LLC. Mm-hmm. And at the time when I started up Blue Roll, I was contracted to work inside the hospital as a patient pusher. So like, Rob, if you were going to get an x-ray, I would say, hi, Rob, my name's Nathaniel. I'm taking you to your x-ray.
Okay.
Yeah. And so two things happened. Not only did I have to start up a legit business and start to run a legit business as an LLC owner, but the hospital came to me and said, you have to choose. You can't have us as a client and work for us. And so you got to choose. And so I went down the road of like, all right, which one is it? What do I do? And I took a leap of faith, quit the job, and started up Blue Roll full time. And so sometimes you just got to go with your gut, go with your gut and just hit the fucking button.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, man, you got to risk. I mean, it's I was interviewing a guy the other day that we were talking about this, and he said, well, my suggestion to everyone is make sure you have a lot of money, because when you fail, you're going to need money. And I was just like, wow, that's not a very good attitude to have. If you're going into business already thinking you're going to fail, or going into anything in life, you're probably going to fail. I mean, it's like,
you should be okay with that.
It's a mindset, I mean, like, you're going in and you're going to kill it. You're not going in and saying, well, I'm going to do this for a while and then I'm going to be broke and have to go do something else. No. But that was kind of his statement. I was just like, huh? But anyway, I won't get off on that. But,
cool.
Yeah. But, well, thank you, man. I've enjoyed having you. Love to have you back on anytime. And, I know you have a ton of knowledge up here that you could probably talk all night about all
A
different
little
things.
bit.
But I think people are going to take a lot from this. I like the simplicity of what, how you
Mm,
explain things and not like over the top. And you've been there too
yeah,
with people. Probably you go in meetings, you're like, what is this guy talking about? So,
yeah. Like, wow, that was a
um,
big word. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. So I just appreciate you, man. And, look forward to getting to know you more. I noticed, you grew up in Mississippi. Is that right?
I did. All my brothers were born in Gulfport, Mississippi. I was
Dude,
born in Jacksonville, Florida, but where are you familiar with in Mississippi?
I was born in Mississippi. I lived in Yazoo City, but
Okay.
I went to Gulfport all the time. My aunt lived there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, man, I saw that. I'm like, hey, a Mississippi boy, cool.
Yeah, yeah, Gulfport and Biloxi. We left there after Katrina hit because
Okay.
it got pretty messy down there. But
Oh yeah.
wow, small world, bro.
Yeah,
That's
man.
pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, well, cool, dude. Well, thank you, man, and we'll have you on next time. And make sure you go find this guy if you need any help with marketing. I'm gonna call you a guru again, man. So
Oh
he
goodness.
is the marketing guru.
Well, I
So
have to call you a wonderful gent. I appreciate your time, and y'all give a big shout out to this man for hosting this podcast and this show. It's a blessing. So I'll talk to y'all soon.
thanks, man.
All right.
Take care. All right, that was Nate, and man, he dropped some knowledge on us. Hopefully, you took something from that, and please share this. Make sure you subscribe, and I just appreciate you all tuning in. And we will catch you next time on the business.